Hi everyone, I'm Jeffrey from Follow Me Tandem, and today I'm going to take you through the full unboxing and installation of the Follow Me Tandem set. If you still have a question after this installation, I will link our website below. On our website you will find a WhatsApp client where you can ask any question you still might have, and you can also send us an email. What I'm going to do here is first open the box and take all the components out, which includes a manual, a box with accessories and the Follow Me Tandem itself. Now the Follow Me Tandem is wrapped in quite some protective layers, so what I'm going to do here is take first all those layers off and then proceed to open the box with accessories. Now in the box with accessories are two wing bolts, a child's frame clamp with a Velcro protector, a spare steel strip, a hang strap with a carabiner, and the two most common children's bike axle nut adapters. The quick release adapter for the adult bike is included in the frame, so the frame doesn't bend in transport. You can take that out by slightly bending the frame outwards. For the installation you either need a marker, or what I like to do is use a piece of tape because you can remove it more easily. You need a size 8 and 13 for the Follow Me Tandem frame, and you also need a size 19 if you want to install axle nut adapters. I prefer to use a ratchet because it simply works faster. Don't use any big ratchets though, because you need little force and you tend to over tighten things with a big ratchet. The only special tool you need is a hacksaw, a Dremel, an angle grinder or good tin shears to cut the steel strip of the frame clamp to size. I personally use the Stanley tin shears, they work great. If you don't have any of these tools, it's no problem. You can also measure the steel strip to size and go to your local hardware or bike shop and ask if they can cut it for you. And finally, you need a ruler to make sure that both sides of the frame are aligned exactly at the same length. There are some optional tools that you definitely not need, but I just want to mention them. You can use a torque wrench to tighten everything down and prevent over tightening things. And Loctite 2for2 that you can put on threads to prevent them becoming loose. Make sure to only use non-permanent variations. So now onto the installation itself. Right here I have the Follow Me Tandem frame and also a stand that mimics the rear wheel of an adult bike, simply because this makes the instruction easier. And at the end of the video I will show you what an installation on a real adult bike would look like. So here I tighten the quick release adapter into the rear wheel, after which I'm gonna place the frame on it. Now every bike has a different width, it's never the same, so what we've done is placed 4 flat pieces inside the Follow Me Tandem frame, which allows you to narrow or widen the frame to any size needed. So right here I see it needs to be widened a bit. What you want is it to snap on there and stay on there without the use of the wing bolts. So right here is perfect. It can still move, but snaps on there quite well. We're gonna place the 2 wing bolts into the rear wheel adapter. Sometimes you're lucky and it swings on there quite nice. The Follow Me Tandem has been designed so it's double secured. So it's locked both by the wing bolt and then afterwards also with a split pin through the frame onto the adapter. Here I double check if the frame moves freely, and if it does you can move over to the next step. To unfold the Follow Me Tandem frame there is a shackle inside the frame that you take out and then use it again to unfold the Follow Me Tandem and lock it in the unfolded position. Make sure you flip it over so it locks correctly. So onto the installation of the child's bike adapter. In the beginning I showed you the included 2 most common adapters, which are regular axle nuts. The included adapters are quite straightforward. You take the current nuts off and put the adapters on the axle. Now modern child bikes often have a quick release or an M6 to hold the front wheel in place. So what I'm doing here is show you those 2 examples. The M6 thread into the hub. Make sure you always insert them by hand to make sure the thread is all lined up correctly, and then only tighten it with a ratchet or a wrench for the final parts. To make sure you don't over tighten this, only use 1 or 2 fingers. That way you don't exert too much force. To illustrate this further, I have a torque wrench set to 8 Newton meters. So basically all the bolts and the installation need to be tightened with 8 Newton meters max. So here I hold it with 1 finger and you will hear it clicking, so you can be rest assured that if you use only 1 finger to tighten it, it will be more than enough. I always advise to check the adapters more frequently instead of over tightening them and maybe risk the chance of breaking them. For bikes with a quick release, we also have a special adapter. For this adapter, it's important to make sure that both ends stick out evenly. So you don't have one side that's threaded in very far and then the other side not having any threads at all. So I do this by aligning the axle, then grabbing one side all the way up to the frame. I then grab the axle with my other hand and thread one side of the adapter fully to the marked depth. So now when I put it back in, it protrudes on the other side at the same depth, and that way I make sure that it's nice in there evenly. Now because both sides are connected to each other, you only need to tighten one side. If you tighten both sides at the same time, you're gonna put too much pressure on there, and the axle is only 5 millimeters thick, so it cannot hold a lot of pressure. So once again, only use one finger to tighten it, and that's more than enough. The Loctite can be put onto these threads if you really are worried about them becoming loose, but they won't. I spin the wheel to make sure it runs freely, and if it does so, we can head over to the frame and start with the first installation. So right now I'm putting the tire of the child's bike onto the frame, so it's pushed onto the frame. And now I'm gonna see how high the two mounting points in the frame need to be for the adapters to be engaged in them. So I push the bike onto the frame, find out the middle place of the adapter on the frame and put my piece of tape here. So now I'm loosening the 4 bolts on both sides of the subframe, and for the side that we've measured, I now move the subframe to the correct height so that the adapter will fall into the middle of that subframe part. I don't over tighten them by only using little force. Once this side is fastened, we can head over to the other side, and to make sure the frame is aligned, I first measure the tightened side and then translate that depth exactly to the other side as well. Once I've double checked the depth, it's time to also fasten this side. Now both sides are adjusted to the bike in question. We can take the bike and now see if we've done everything correctly. So I place the 2 adapter sides into the subframe. And what you want to look for is first if both adapters are touching in the subframe correctly, and then also if the tire is still touching the midframe. So you have 3 contact points. Now to illustrate how you can adjust the height of the front wheel of the child's bike from the air, you can either move the frame clamp a little bit higher or you can move it a bit lower. The most important thing is that you have at least 8 centimeters of clearance under the front tire, so you don't hit a curb or a hole in the ground. You can use a ruler to check this, but you can also put your hand under there, and if you have like a hand's width of clearance under the tire, you're good to go. Take the same piece of tape you used before and now use it on the lower subframe of the child's bike to mark where you want the frame clamp to be seated. So onto the frame clamp itself, there is a side in the steel strip with holes and a side without holes. We want to go to the side with the holes so we can adjust for the total width of the child's frame. There is an Allen key side on the outside, but we don't need it at all. We want to go to the inside where the nuts are located and then take these 2 nuts off. This is rather tricky because they're very narrow to each other and most sockets don't fit onto it. Or the socket fits onto it but it turns against the other nut, so it doesn't really work. The best way to do this is take a wrench and then from the outside half turn these nuts. The steel strip can be sharp at times, so even easier is to put the steel strip the other way around back into the frame clamp. That way you can get a great grip onto the steel strip without the possibility of hurting yourself. In the middle of the frame clamp there are 2 holes which are used to conduct any brake ducts that might be on the bike. So if you have a bike with any ducts on the bottom, you can use those holes to fit them into it. Now here I put the Velcro onto the frame. You can also use a piece of rubber or electrical tape if you prefer that. I place the frame clamp over the Velcro and now we're gonna measure the total length the steel strip needs to be. So I put the little part back on again, and what you're looking for is that the thread goes through the frame clamp, but you still have a lot of travel to tighten the bolt on it. So if it's too low, it already hits the frame clamp and there's no way to tighten it again. So place it as high as possible whilst making sure it can still go through the frame clamp. Once you've done that, you measure where you want to cut the steel strip. So I used the same piece of tape I used before. And once I've done that, I can take the part out and then take the Stanley tin shears to cut the steel strip to size. You want to make sure that you leave as much steel strip as possible so the bolts and nuts have enough material to hold on to. So I make the cut almost at the next hole that I'm not going to use. So there's a big closed piece still around both the bolts. Once you've done that, you can place the small part back on the steel strip again and tighten the two bolts. So whether you've turned it around in a clamp or not, at this point you want to make sure that the bolts are in the inside of the frame clamp before we're gonna put the frame clamp on the bike. Once you've done so, we can tighten the frame clamp. Here you want to tighten it to about 80%, so you want it firm but still able to move a little bit to try out if we've done everything correctly. As you can see, the security cap I've left off because it's easier to use a socket on both of those bolts if the security cap is off. Now I want to make sure that I tighten both bolts at the same depth, so leave a bit of room on both of those bolts. After that we can install the security cap and now we can try out the whole assembly. So here I'm placing the adapters into the subframe, make sure that the tire is aligned into the frame and then I can lift the frame into the frame clamp. Here I'm looking if the height of the wheel is as expected and otherwise this is the time to adjust it a little bit more. I'm now confident that everything is installed correctly, so I take the bike out again, make sure that the frame clamp is aligned in the middle of the bike. And here I'm tightening the frame clamp for the last time. So as promised, I'm gonna show you how this all looks on a regular adult bike. So this bike has a quick release adapter. I take the old one out. There was a spring on my axle and you don't need to place that onto our adapters. You can just leave those out. If you have another type of axle here, please refer to our website where we list all the available adapters. Nowadays, modern bikes often have a through axle. This is a little bit more difficult to measure the exact one you need, but we have a guide and when in doubt you can always reach out to us and we're happy to help determine what that you need. So here I'm adjusting the width of my actual bike. Everything moves freely again, so that's great. Then I put in the wing bolt and the split pins. And now onto the strap. So either you have a luggage rack where you attach this strap to, or if you don't, you can attach it to your saddle or your saddle stem. Put the strap through 3 times, as shown here, so you make sure that it doesn't slip. And then you can set the height you want your Follow Me tandem to be hanging. Now, I advise to put it a little higher, so whenever you go off a curb or something, you make sure that your frame cannot hit it. So in pictures, I actually like it if the Follow Me tandem is hanging horizontally, but in reality, this is too low. So go a bit over the horizontal line. You cannot go too high really, but find a middle ground there. So in practice, now I'm going to show you how the total assembly works. Here I unfold the Follow Me tandem frame. Make sure the tire and the adapters are aligned. Heighten the frame. Make sure the bike is straight with your adult bike. If you're alone, then another small tip is to place both of these bikes against the wall so you don't need to balance both. Once the frame clicks in, you can fasten the security cap. The child's bike is secured at 3 points, so it's at the front wheel adapter, the security cap and the rotary knob, so there's really no way for the bike to come out at this point. If you want to take the bike out, you unsecure the rotary knobs, the security cap. At that point you can lower the frame and take the bike out again. So as you can see, the Follow Me tandem was designed with safety as a top priority. Both child's bike and the adult bike are secured on multiple points. And once you've installed it with all the tools, there's no tools needed anymore. And the installation and deinstallation can be done on the go in a matter of seconds. Here I'm attaching the frame back to the strap again, and we're all ready to cycle independently again. So if you want to take your Follow Me tandem off your bike completely, you deattach the strap. Then unsecure the wing bolts. And then once you've taken those off, you can bend the frame a little bit outwards. It will snap off and you can store it away. So there you have it. That's the full unboxing and installation of the Follow Me tandem. Now, apart from the adapters used, we have a lot of other adapters as well. Please go to our website, which I've linked in our description, to see all adapters available. If you still have any questions, feel free to email us or use our WhatsApp client to get in touch. Our website ships anywhere inside of Europe, and we also work with distributors that send outside Europe. So if you have any questions about availability, you can always ask. Thanks for watching this guide. Consider leaving a like and subscribe. We will also make a detailed video for all adult and child's adapters, so stay tuned to see that as well. For now, I hope this video was helpful and you've successfully installed your Follow Me tandem. Once you're out in the wild, please send a picture or a video to our Instagram. I'll also link that below. I always enjoy seeing them in the wild, so please share it with us. I want to wish you many adventures. Have a blast and we'll be in touch.